Got it. All right. So we're recording. It's currently September 5th, 2021 as we're recording this. And I believe this is the magical 20th episode of the Make Guitar podcast. So thanks for joining us for this momentous, round number episode.
Is this the dodeca centennial or the dodeca? I don't know. Never mind.
Yes, it is. It sure is.
Yeah. Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty well.
Pretty good.
We have Steve with us again. Welcome back, Steve.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Good. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's kind of close to everyone's bedtimes, but I apologize for not being able to make it sooner.
Well, to our viewers, they can watch this anytime, so they'll be fine.
They'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do everything for the viewers.
Yes.
It's Labor Day for me tomorrow, so I'm off, so it's okay.
Oh, well, good for you. I'm off tomorrow too, but it's my normal day off. So
nice. Hey,
yeah.
So what's everybody working on this week? You guys got any projects?
Let's start with Steve.
I got a ton of projects. From last time we talked, I have this reverb that I sprayed and have fitted everything to, and just have to do the internal wiring for. And I've got a mammoth task of picking out knobs for it. And that's like the one thing I always have the hardest time with is like, I've got these cool ones for the big ones, but then for the small ones, I'm like, do I go with this style? Do I go with another one? So it'll have like 10 different sets of knobs on it before the week's out. And then I have all these other enclosures that I sprayed up today as well. So the base coats were done in the week, and then I did all the words on them today. So that's
Looks
those.
great.
I think they turned out pretty good. None of them are perfect. There's like a few little spots you can probably see where like paint kind of snuck under, and there's nothing I can do about it now. But I was getting sloppy because I just want to play them. Like this side of it, I don't care about as much. Like I did it because I should have them looking nice, but I don't know.
So if I may ask, what method do you use to make the letters?
Oh, so I have a craft machine called a Cricut. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I buy this sort of vinyl stuff, and then it's like a mill basically, and it just cuts out the letters, and then you put them on carefully and then spray over it and pull it off before the paint gets too dry. And I've had great results with it, except for one enclosure today where I pulled all the paint off the enclosure with it. That was kind of a bummer because that was looking good. And most of these are drive pedals, and normally I wouldn't have need for like 3 or 4 of them, but I bought this recently. This is the Old Blood Noise Endeavors signal blender, and so this allows you to run effects in parallel. So often one of the problems I have is if I put 2 gain stages together, it's fine. But once you start adding more, then you start getting like, it's too much. And so being able to run those in parallel and blend in different circuits is kind of a game changer for, your tonal palette.
Oh, that sounds super cool. Have you heard of that Chase Bliss? I think it's called Brothers, and it's like their drive pedal.
Yeah. And does it affect them in you can choose probably to affect them in series or parallel, right?
That's it. It has a bunch of little dip switches on the back. Well, like really on the top of the case, right? And you can choose parallel or series and it's got 2 channels. And the channels are kind of they're similar but a little bit different. So you can set the settings like the gain and drive on each channel.
Yeah, so one of these pedals I'm building is like a Marshall in a box style circuit, and the other one is like an orange circuit. And so I thought it'd be good to get those going in parallel with each other.
Nice.
Thought that would sound good.
Yeah.
And also I bought it mostly for delays and reverbs too. It's kind of frustrating because a lot of people prefer to run their delay into their reverb, but then you kind of lose your tails in the sort of the wash of reverb. But if you run it the other way, running reverb into delay doesn't always sound very crisp. And so now I can just run them in parallel. I don't have to worry about that.
Interesting. That's on something that has fascinated me for a long time. Is there's a company called Paya. They sold these kits. They basically do a lot of synthesizer stuff mostly, but they sell some guitar pedal kits. But they sold kits before it was a big deal. Like they did it way back in the 90s, you know. But one of the things that they made was a thing by Craig Anderton, and it was called the Quadra Fuzz. And it was basically like 4 tube screamers, but one of them was filtered to the high end, and then there's 2 kind of mid-range and a low. And so you can like set the distortion, the drive for each band, like it's like 4 frequency bands, and then you can mix them all together at the end. And that always fascinated me. Like I always wanted to build that. I haven't done it yet, but I'd like to do it, you know.
This little thing back here I have is this is from Pyre. It's like a DIY rack mounted synth thing. There's no it's just the ears and the dock, and then I have all the little plates. And I had this idea to make like a rack mounted bunch of fuzz pedals, but I never I bought the stuff and then never ended up doing it. So yeah, I couldn't figure out the power and switching requirements for it. It was just beyond my capabilities at that time. Still is, but you know.
Well, only for until it isn't, right? You know, someday.
Right.
Yeah, maybe somebody will even post in the comments below, you know, their solution,
Right.
some resource.
Yeah, there's another pedal too called the Triumvirate. It's by the guy's name will come to me in a minute, but it's basically like got 3 channels in it. It's got like you know, high, medium, and a low, and you can kind of set the drive and the volume for each of those channels, and it mixes them at the end. So like I know about all these pedals because I always wanted to build the Quadra Fuzz. So anything that comes up with that same arrangement, like it's kind of always on my radar, you know.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of DIY parallel effects blenders now. So the Klein, he has a line of pedals that he just made publicly available. I guess he's getting out of the business, but his famous VFE pedals, I think they're called.
That's the guy that does the Triumvirate.
Okay, so he has
Yeah,
he has a parallel signal blender called the Klein Bottle, and it's
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
and it's basically 4 different paths, and you know you can change the phasing, you have a tone control, and then I guess Electro Harmonics might have borrowed that design for their parallel effects mixer. So because it's apparently once you take them apart, it's very similar. And so yeah, but that's too much for me, and it's too much real estate to have something that's that big. So this is just 2 and a clean, and you can mix in the clean signal as well. So
nice. Yeah, what you have there is kind of like parts that make the thing, so you can kind of mix and match with it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. I just need to find time to redo my whole board again to accommodate it now.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, me and Kirk were talking a while ago about doing like a simple effects loop, like an A/B switcher, but doing it with a momentary switch. So you could like turn an effect on with your foot down and then turn it back off, by lifting, we haven't done it yet, but that seems like a really easy one. Like I should have done it. I bought some momentary switches too, so I got started, but I never completed it. Never followed through,
a better way to do that, not to disparage your design, but if you took like a like did a relay and had some kind of microcontroller that knew like one press is turn it on or hold as long as you're holding it, you know, that would be really cool too.
Yeah. I thought like the way I envisioned it would have two switches. One would be like a toggle type switch, and the other one would be the momentary switch. So if you toggled it on, the momentary would turn the effect in the loop, put the loop in, right, when you press it down. And if you switch the other switch, then pressing it down would take the effect out of the loop, was the idea, you know?
Gotcha.
So, but I don't know, we'll see. I bought a couple momentary switches, so maybe I'll get back on that, you know, because it's like, and then it would not be active. You don't even need a battery. Maybe you don't even need an LED, right? Because it's just momentary.
You'd
Exactly.
think
Your foot would be in the way.
Yeah, right. You know.
You'd think. I have one of these on my. I have an double effect loop on my board, and I bought a jack from Tader, a power jack that pretty much I'm sure broke the minute I put it in, and it's a board mounted one, and everything is board mounted. The switches are all mounted to the board. The 6 jacks are all mounted to the board, and so I have to jiggle the power jack to get it to work. And if I need to take it apart, I pretty much got to just start the whole thing again, because I would have to desolder the switches to get it out. Like there's no other way. It's just rammed in there because it's in like a 125B enclosure, and I just couldn't do it without breaking something. And so I'm kind of bummed. So, but you do, and it's true, you don't need the power on. But when you're on stage and you're like, wait, is this on? Is this off? What's in the loop? Do I need this? It's like I just
hit your guitar to see like what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm sure all the rest of the band would love me to do that mid-song. That'd be perfect.
Yeah,
Uh,
That's like that guy from Radiohead, who he had that thing in the song "Creep," where the guitar goes, and he just does that to check if the guitar is on.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's got some echo, you know. Like, I was actually thinking of that same thing right there. We're in parallel here. Hey, so you working on anything, Kirk? What are you doing these days?
I've been working on my 51 style P bass today, just kind of figuring out where that bridge pickup is going to live. I know I've talked about this for weeks now, but just been doing more research, and I learned, you know, a few things like the original jazz bass, they moved, I think, both pickups from the original position of the jazz bass in the 70s. They moved them to sort of change the tone. So
for the better? Do people think the 70s ones sound better?
well, I'm sure Fender had that in mind when they did it, but yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten that far in the research. Nobody said like, oh, it was a big. Well, no, actually, they've said that it made it sound fatter. So yeah, I think it was probably the style. You know, that was the the 70s style, the fatter sound.
Nice.
But I can't move the neck pickup, so I can only move the bridge pickup.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say I think it's okay to research that one, because once you cut the pickup slot, it's like it's all over. You can't change your mind, right?
Right.
Measure twice, measure 3 or 4 times, cut once, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So still working on that, on the research and drawing the lines and stuff. But
yeah. Actually, that's really interesting. I'd like to see some pictures to see how they moved it, just out of curiosity,
Oh yeah, I'll see if I can find that. I'll definitely keep you in the loop.
Are you trying to keep it as traditional to a time period as possible, or are you trying to get a specific sound out of it?
I'm not really going for a specific sound, but I'm used to playing a jazz bass, and part of the reason that I'm making this new bass, it's just I like the aesthetics of the 51 P bass, but I think I'd feel limited with just that one neck pickup. So I don't really care that much about, I mean, already having two pickups, you're not adhering to the visual of the original. So yeah, I'm just, it's kind of like a, something that's based on a, particular aesthetic, but taking it to another level. And I want it to have as much utility as possible. Like the jazz bass that I have, it's not a Fender, but it's, it's based on the Fender specs. So I'm totally fine with it. I definitely like having a bridge pickup on a bass.
Huh. Yeah, what's interesting about that is it's almost like one of those Fender alternate universe guitars, right? Like in the universe where they did the 51 style bass with two pickups,
Right. Yeah, there have been a lot of P basses where they just added a jazz bass bridge pickup to it. And I don't know. It's kind of like, I know that was like a 70s style, but I just don't really like the aesthetic of it. I prefer the single coil pickups that, they just look very primitive in a way. So that's what it's gonna get.
Nice. Yeah, I like the look of those. Actually, I just got a question too. So the P bass, like the body, is it rounded or does it have the more square edge like the Telecaster style roundover?
This one has the arm cut and the belly carve. It was an option when I ordered the body.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just to recap, I got this body from a guy on eBay or Amazon or wherever, Reverb. I don't remember where he sells his stuff, but he makes these things out of pine, and he makes them to order. So his name is Michael Jordan, but I can't remember the name of his company. Oh, Rosser Guitars.
Yeah.
And I've used his bodies for a couple of other guitars, and they're pretty great.
Yeah, nice. But just quick question though. So the roundover, is it more like a Strat roundover or a P bass roundover, or is it like a smaller, like 1/8 inch or whatever, like you get on a Telly?
I think it's probably more like a Strat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize it in my head, like what it's gonna look like,
Yeah, I'd grab it, but then a whole bunch of things would fall off on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got more of a comfort aesthetic to it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It'll be cool.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
So what are you working on, Mitch?
Well, today I had a couple circuit boards that I had started that I soldered up, but I needed to make some enclosures. So I milled the enclosures last week, and then today I drilled them and then I wired everything up. And so I built these two haunting mids fuzzes right here. So like here's two of them, right? I had a black enclosure and a red enclosure. And so like Steve was saying about mixing the
like that.
I did.
Yeah.
So
mine is purple and green though. I don't know if is that like it's like Joker-fied, I guess, right?
yeah. Right. Yeah. So my bummer though was that I like these knobs, but I wanted to put like black and red plastic knobs on here, but I didn't have any. I have some, but not enough, like, and not the ones that I wanted. I realized I was short on knobs. So I just dug these out and put them on there, but maybe it'll get some different knobs if I order some things in the future. So I did that. And then what else? I made a demo of this big muff. So I made a big muff like a week or two ago, and then I made a demo of it. So I'm trying to do a thing where every time I build a pedal, I make a little video demo and then put it on my blog. So I made the demo for the big muff today.
I watched it. It was very good.
Oh, do you like
it sounded huge.
Did you? Yeah, that green Russian Big Muff has got like a lot of bass. It's like super bassy. You know. You know what I was doing? So here's my formula, right? Like I just get the pedal out and I just get the guitar and I just kind of, just noodle around. And then and then when I find something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn that into like 2 minutes of demo. So I was playing these like kind of double stops. And so I started with the double stop riff. And then I was like, okay, so now I need the rest of like kind of something interesting to go with it, But anyway, so that was fun. I probably played that whole riff like 100 times, believe me. Like
Oh wow.
it's easy to believe, right? But I played it like probably like 100 times, and then I just go over and then redo it again, and I'd change something or I'd screw something up and then play it over to do it over again, like
Well, I
so.
like that you had overdubs on it. It wasn't just a straight up demo.
There's only one overdub, so it's all one guitar backing, and then at the very end, like the last 8 bars, that I added a second guitar.
Right.
So, and I felt I kind of needed that because I played it without the second guitar, and my riffing wasn't good enough to stand on its own. So so then I was like, okay, I gotta have the backup or it's not gonna sound right, But yeah, so it came out okay. So I was doing that, and then I started working on another one. I made this ugly face I made this like a while ago, and it was never finished. So I finally put some knobs on this, and so I'm doing another ugly face demo. I was just working on that before we got on this call. I used this other thing right here too. This is I made this a while ago. It's like a 1776 effects multiplex echo machine. So it's basically like 2 PT 2399 delays. And then the little switch right here lets you choose like 1 delay, 2 delays in series, or 2 delays in parallel. And then it's got the time for each of the delays, regeneration for both delays, and then a mix. So this is a super cool project. This one I kind of screwed up. I thought I could fit the power jack there, and I couldn't. The PC board is too close to the back of the box. So I ended up having to drill a second hole over here to make it work. So I screwed this one up. Maybe I gotta make something I can cover that up with.
We've been there many times.
I know. I have so many boxes with like extra holes in them. So anyway, so that was my fun.
Hey, I recognize that one.
Yeah. That's actually, it's on my to-do list, is to do a demo of this.
Okay.
So I put that, like I have this to-do list, and I realized today, after just talking about trying to get shit done, like if I think like, oh, I want to do something, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, who knows? If I write it down, usually it's more likely to happen. But if it's a big thing, like it takes a few steps, or it's going to be more than an hour or two, then even writing it down doesn't guarantee that it gets done. I might work on it, but then forget about it. So what I did was, in my to-do list, I make a checklist of all the things to get something done. So like, it's like, drill the box, build the circuit board, mill the box, put everything in the box and wire it up, make the demo, post it to my website. So I have like 5 or 6 steps just to get the thing on the website. But then it happens, right? So that's like, I don't know. That's my trying to get stuff done technique,
That's good.
Yeah.
So do you do that in bullet style? Like on the day that you're going to do those things, you put all of those steps on your list?
Yeah, but sometimes it takes longer than the day. So you got to put it somewhere
Right.
where you can go back to it and look at it, and then like put a check mark next to each step when you complete it. I've done it on paper. Like I have a little notebook, and I do it in my notebook, or I'll do it on my phone. Like I have an app on the phone. I've been using this to-do app called Habitica.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that lets you, if you make a to-do item, you can put sub like check boxes underneath it. So that's really helps me get stuff done.
Yeah. Well, there's some gamification as well. So like you get rewards, you get dopamine and released when you check things off.
Yeah, yeah. The gamifying thing in that app doesn't really do a lot for me, but the checkboxes really help. You know, my to-do
I
list is so long, I don't know that I'll ever complete it. I put everything on there, you know.
I'm definitely guilty of writing things on a to-do list that is very easy just so I can cross it out. Like,
Yeah,
hey, I did that one. But like, yeah, I'm very, very guilty of that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, just I think checking it off like is like super satisfying, and writing it down like is like golden to getting something done, you know. Like just thinking about it is not enough. You gotta like I gotta take some physical action, you know.
I
Right.
forget
Absolutely.
things. I forget a lot of things nowadays, so um, I need to
Oh
write it
yeah.
down.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Like I have like a lot of stuff that's like half finished or like, you know, and I'm like, where was I? When did I start this? You know, it's like a year ago or something, you know, and then I'm like, what is it? What even is this? Do you ever do that? You have like a box and it's got a circuit in it and you're like, what is this?
I've just got a little note. It just basically says uh, weird distortion. Like
Nice.
that's it. Like no other notes to myself. I know no clue what's wrong with it. No clue how to fix it, but that's what it says. So
Weird. Oh, so weird distortion is the problem, not the thing.
yeah, this is a reverb, so it shouldn't have any distortion on it at all. I have no idea what's wrong with it, but
Oh,
yeah, I think
funny.
I have. Is this one got a note on it too? Oh, this one is yeah, I've got to get to this at some point. This I think the note on this one should be learn C++, so I can code it. But yeah,
Nice.
we'll see if I ever get there.
We should talk. Does that have like an Arduino in it or something?
It is a daisy seed.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one?
No, I don't know that one. It's probably similar though. It's like a microcontroller.
It is, but it's made by a company specifically for musicians. Because one of the problems with using Arduinos is a lot of the commonly available ones don't quite have. There's a little latency if you program them for stuff, and sometimes the coding language can be difficult. And these guys, Electrosmith is the company. They literally designed it so that you could. It's audio is its number one thing, because most of these other ones are just for flashing an LED in a classroom or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
but these ones are for that, and they actually make. You can buy a pedal from them with a bunch of switches on it and stuff, and you literally just take the unit and plug it into that and load it up, and then you've got all the controls and everything. Like you can use it to make a modular synth or a regular synthesizer, all kinds of stuff. And so this project I've had sitting here for ages, and there's even like tons of people have written programs for it and submitted them online. All I have to do is figure out how to get it working when I don't own a computer. So
You don't own a computer?
my wife does, and sometimes she lets me use it
Sometimes.
if I've been good.
Yeah. You got to earn the privilege. Hey,
Right.
so you know, let's do that as a future episode. Send that
Sure.
because maybe I'll try and get one, you know, because I'm really curious about that, you know.
Yeah, they're not expensive either. I think the project is a pedal PCB project, and the board itself I think was $30. I think for the Daisy Seed, it's not an expensive for a reverb. That's not. You can do anything with it. Like you can whatever you want. It's got all that stuff as long as you know how to do it.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, oh, you know what else happened just while I'm thinking about it? We're going to talk about that though, but I sold a pedal.
Oh, right.
I put some
That's
pedals
great.
on reverb. I sold one. So that's great because I was worried like I keep making like I made two more today. Right. So I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to be awash in pedals if I can't get rid of some of them. You know, it kind of becomes a little weird, you know. But I sold one. So I'm going to mail it out. And what was nice about it is the guy paid full price for it. He didn't like make an offer, you know. Yeah.
Which pedal was it?
I sold an ugly face. So it looks like this is actually this one. It's kind of a better one than this because this one I uses the old circuit board, which is like kind of hanging around loose in here. And then I wired the pots backwards on this one. So like if you turn this down, the threshold goes on, and if you turn this one counterclockwise, the envelope is all the way up. It's like wrong. So this is the one I'm just going to keep this one for me, right? Because I know how to work it, but I made one like I made a couple of these, and I sold a couple, but I sold one more today.
That's great. It's funny. I messaged you about this. I'm not on Facebook a bunch, and I don't think you are either, but I sent you a message there some time ago. I was watching I think it was an Earthquaker Devices video where a guy who runs some kind of studio was showing you all his pedals, and one of your old ugly faces with all the fur on it, he had one.
Oh, awesome.
And
Cool.
it was, I guess it was one that belonged to Nels Klein at some point. And this guy had ended up with it.
Oh, dude, I gotta go see that. That's so funny.
If you log into your Facebook, I don't know if you do that. I can't get messages on there anymore. It just always says, hey, you got to download something else. I'm like, okay, they'll call me if they really need me. But I sent you a message with a link to the video.
I deleted my Facebook account.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it out of there and send it to you separately. Then now I have your number. Now I have your number. I can get you there.
Yeah, I deleted my Facebook account. It's gone. It's like, and I really don't miss it, to be honest.
Right. No, I'm with you there.
Cool. We'll circle around on that one. Hey, so we were talking about Under the Skin, the movie. Let's switch gears and talk about that for a minute, because the soundtrack was really pretty cool and weird.
Oh yeah, I've basically listened to nothing else this week. I've accidentally listened to things, just shuffle or whatever, but like the only things that I've really put on that are kind of new, that soundtrack.
Yeah, I listened to it while I was working. So I listened to it at work. It was actually pretty good. I mean, I'm working at home right these days, but it made good work music, like, because it's good in the background, kind of, right?
I couldn't listen to it at work. I get that it's kind of ambient, but there's that sort of threshold of sort of, you have your Enya on one end of the spectrum, and then you have your esoteric cloud sounds at the other end. This was a lot more jarring to me than I think. Maybe it was provoking something within me, but I found a lot of it very sort of scratchy and harsh. And while you can sort of have that in the background while you're working, for me, I found it like engaging to the point that I was like, I don't know if I could have this on in the background. Like, maybe I think given that it's the background of a movie, I think would make it work better, but maybe I need to give it another thorough listen. But a lot of the stuff I listened to was just like, it was very hard for me to listen to. I don't think I'm from the same sort of musical background as you guys are, because hearing it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is interesting. But at the same time, I was like, wow, it's a lot,
I think that's an appropriate response. I mean, it is kind of a horror movie, or that's one way of viewing it. Well, I did some reading about the soundtrack this week as well, and there was some discussion with the composer, Mica Levi, and they were definitely going for sexy in a way. I mean, to me, it's sort of like it's kind of like Bolero in a way. It's just it's very dark and alien. But yeah, it is sort of disturbing, and I think that that's totally intentional and very appropriate for the subject of the movie.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can see where like the mood of it, like the tension in the notes, like and could put you on edge. And especially there's like a drum that you hear every once in a while, but it's like not boom, boom, boom. It's just like boom, like, which is
Mhm.
like, you're kind of just waiting for it, like, right. But what that reminds me of is I remember reading a story about some people that went into the Amazon jungle, and they met with some, tribes of indigenous people that had never heard any Western music before. And what they did is they played some Beethoven for those people, and then they played the theme to Psycho. And apparently Beethoven like freaked them out. Like, they were like, oh my God, it put them on edge. But the theme to Psycho, they were like, oh, this is great. We love this. And so I think there's a lot of in music there, like, that what they were saying is there's a lot of uh like learning what the sounds mean. So like, we all kind of internalize what certain, instruments and pitches and intervals, like what we're kind of like shown what they mean, in certain contexts, right? And so like, Steve is obviously like much more sensitive to that than I am, right? Because it, like, I'm like, oh, I can just work to this. It's not bothering me. It sounds a lot like all that terrible rock music I listen to, like, right? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, it's like I gravitate to the textures of that. I mean, just like sort of the technique. Uh, I mean, you have to be in the mood for it, of course, as well. But it's got a lot of texture. It's when that kind of that 3-note theme really gets going, there's a lot of riffing on that.
Yeah.
And I initially thought that it was all like samples or electronic. I think it probably is sampled, but I think that it's all it's recorded on a viola and then manipulated after that.
Oh, that's interesting. It did sound like samples to me, like kind of granular, or like,
Or even reversed in some
yeah,
some
maybe, yeah.
places.
Yeah, my ear isn't that good, but it did definitely sound like they were sampling something, right? That makes a lot of sense that you said viola. I kind of thought maybe they sampled like little snippet of like classical orchestra or something.
And yeah, sometimes I was thinking that it was like one of those, what was that instrument, like the mellotron or whatever, that did the
Oh yeah,
Beatles use
yeah.
that, like a kind of that sound. But then I stumbled upon an article that was talking about how um, they really started out by performing it on the viola.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys are into Eurorack, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Morphogene. Like they could have done that on Morphogene, or it's like a module that kind of does granular sampling
Mm.
and playback. And you can play, like, if you take a sample and you can play it forward and backward and change the speed of it. And you can have multiple samples, which are like the gene. So you could play different samples.
Okay.
But it kind of reminded me, like, I was trying to think, like, did they use a Eurorack on that? And then I thought, like, if they did it, they might have used like Morphogene or like Clouds or something. Clouds is like
Mm.
another like granular sampler kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you've shown me those devices. I sort of tried to recreate the, like the vibe of that soundtrack using the EBow on guitar. Um, I mean, you could get it kind of in the ballpark, but there's something going on with the effects. Like it sounds very, like there's not a lot of reverb or delay or anything like that. It's just, there's some kind of modulation going on there. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure how to get that sound, but
Yeah. There's something interesting about the music in like structurally, right? And I, like, at first I was kind of like, what's going on? It seems a little bit random, but there's definitely like a major structure, for each of the pieces. And then I was reading about Mica Levi, and they said that they went to I forget what school it was, but they basically took like classical music, like that was,
Mhm.
you know, so, and then it made a lot of sense because they were composing like in like a classical kind of way. It wasn't like rock music. Like if it, you know, if it was rock music, it would be like, you know, verse, chorus, bridge, you know, and I would understand that, you know, but then like when I thought in the context of like a classical piece with this like 3-note motif and, you know, and then kind of like the drum hit, you know, at the certain points, you know, like then it kind of made a lot of sense to me, you know, kind of like modern classical music or something, you know, or
Yeah.
avant-garde, you know.
Yeah, actually, I tried to listen to some other Mica Levi pieces, and there was another soundtrack that it seemed like it was mostly some kind of like a hammered instrument, like a xylophone or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember what the name of it was, but you know, that's the kind of instrumentation that, you know, like a standard like rock person um, uh, wouldn't necessarily start with.
Yeah.
But then I also found something that sounded a lot like you know, kind of like My Bloody Valentine. It was very noise heavy with a lot of distortion.
Hmm. I got to
Um,
go check that out.
I believe it was on Bandcamp.
Oh, Michael Levi's on Bandcamp.
Yeah, but the Under the Skin soundtrack
Oh yeah, yeah,
is
that's
not there.
okay.
But
Cool. I'm gonna go check that out. Hey,
I think
while we're
Mica Levi also performs under like Mika Chu or Micah Chu or something like that.
I think I saw that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, while we're on the Bandcamp talk, that you know, why don't we switch? Like, what are you guys listening to? Steve, are you listening to anything good this week?
I've been listening to a couple of albums this week. I listened to one which is by, I think it's called Corn Tooth, and the album is called The Desert is Paper Thin, and it's a concept album. There's no words at all, and it's just imagining driving across the desert,
Oh, I
and
like that already.
so there's a lot of pedal steel on it. There's also a lot of electronic instrumentation on it as well, which can sort of feel strange when you're used to hearing sort of pedal steel in one context, and then you hear instruments you wouldn't expect to hear with it. So that's the one. And then the other one is by Evan Wright, and it's called The Sound from Out the Window. And it's sort of psychedelic, kind of folky. It's not really something I typically listen to, but his instrumentation choices are very interesting. He's clearly got a lot of old 60s import instruments that never worked the way they were supposed to, but the way he's using those sounds to create melody and it's really interesting to listen to, and his voice kind of sounds a lot like Elliott Smith as well, so it's something familiar, and yet there's also something very strange in this music. So that's Evan Wright, The Sounds from Out the Window.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both sound very interesting.
What was that first one? Did you call it Corn Tooth?
It's Corn, Tuth. I don't know if that's Corn Tooth, Corn Tooth, Corn
All
Tooth.
one word.
All one word.
Okay. Nice. Yeah,
Oh,
I was listening to a couple albums. I listened to the Mica Levi soundtrack, and I also ran into this Yellow album. It was like Loveless, like, you know, like My Bloody Valentine, but it was like all covers by Japanese bands of Loveless, right? But it was like the Yellow Loveless album, you know, and it was really good. I actually like it almost better than the My Bloody Valentine, you know. It's just super good. It's got a bunch of people on it too that I'd never heard of, and then some people I had heard of, like, you know, it had like a lot of Boris on there, and then a bunch of like, you know, just Japanese shoegazer bands, you know. But it was really well done, you know.
some of it was very faithful to the original, I think. Not the
Yeah.
Shonen Knife. That was very, much
Yeah,
Shonen Knife.
yeah, they did it. They were very Shonen Knife when they did their cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the album called?
It's called Yellow Loveless, I think.
Okay. And it's on Bandcamp?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
blue one too. There's like a blue Loveless, which is like all bands from Korea, but I haven't heard that one yet. So I'm gonna listen to that when I have some time.
It's funny you mentioned that. I got recommended a Korean shoegaze band a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, and now this is the second time.
Mm.
Like, is there just like a big shoot? Like they're all listening to BTS and like K-pop, and there's just like this corner that's shoegazing away in Korea. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, the algorithm knows us better than we know ourselves. It's just predicted this moment.
Yeah. I feel a little weird about that. I feel like I should be finding stuff at random, not suggested stuff, because then I might do something different. I might, swerve left instead, but the algorithm's going to keep me in my lane. It's going to like suggest stuff that's, in the same lane or going in the same direction. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's why we have these conversations, so that hopefully we can deviate, we can get out of our grooves and, into another.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you listening to, Kirk?
Well, I've been listening to that soundtrack quite a bit, the Under the Skin soundtrack, and yeah. Other than that, I think you pointed out that Yellow album, and I haven't listened to any new stuff on my own.
Yeah. Hey, let me throw one more out at you because I realized I listened to something else today. I took a walk and we were talking about how people make money these days with music. And so the topic came up and I was curious, are people actually making money on Spotify, or are they making money on Bandcamp, or are they making money on Apple Music, or do they do all three, or what do they do? And so I looked that up and I ran into a band called $75 Bill. Okay. And they were talking about how they never made any money at all, right, until they put their music on Bandcamp, and then they actually got paid. They were like, yeah, I got a check for $1,000, like, this is great, right? And then so I listened to them and they were pretty weird. They're like, it's like a guy that plays guitar and then there's another guy that plays drums, but basically he's just sitting on a wooden box, like maybe he does some other stuff, but I looked a video up of them and most of the time he's just sitting on a wooden box kind of with two kind of soft padded kind of drumsticks like whacking the side of the box, and maybe in one video he's got like a little cymbal by his foot and he's just kind of hitting the little cymbal, chink chink chink, and then the guy playing the guitar is doing these kind of weird, like they sound almost like Middle Eastern or like Asian kind of melody, but it's very drony, like it's like repeated, like the same 3 or 4 notes, right, repeated over and over again. And in one video it kind of looks like he's got like an old kind of 60s Teisco guitar or something, just some kind of cheap guitar. And then in another video he's got another kind of cheap guitar, but it looks kind of microtonal, like they've added a bunch of frets to it. So they were pretty interesting. So I listened to one of their albums. It sounded like it was live, and so they had some other performers on it, and there were some horns and maybe a bass, or maybe a second guitar, but they're very drony and kind of interesting. They were kind of fun, There's
Where are they from?
Video of them just playing, like they're like in Chinatown in like, it looked like New York. They're just on the street just playing, the guy's sitting on his box and the guy's just playing this droning guitar, and then there's just like some old Chinese guy kind of looking at him suspiciously, like, somebody, a woman with a tattoo walks by and drops $1 in their bag,
So they made $1.
Yeah, they had a couple bucks, I might have given them $1. I wasn't there though, but
So is this an American band?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I got the impression they're from Japan, not Japan, but New York. I don't know why I said.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I don't know actually where they're from. I just kind of got this impression they're from New York. I don't know why.
Well, they were in New York in the video.
It looked like it. It could have been San Francisco because, you know, it was like, it looked a little like Chinatown in San Francisco, but it didn't quite look like Chinatown in San Francisco, you know?
All right, I'll take a look and see if I see any landmarks.
Yeah. You know, but they were kind of okay, you know, so I would like recommend them. But it was interesting because in the interview, they were saying that essentially they're like, yeah, I've never made any money on music at all until, but then we made some money when we put the music on Bandcamp, which I thought was kind of interesting, you know.
I think you'll find a lot of bands have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Bandcamp is, I think I've seen one dissenting opinion regarding Bandcamp, and the guy was saying that they'd held his money up or something, and then because I know a guy, they were like, oh yeah, we held his money because you can do merch sales through Bandcamp, but it's on the bands to actually send it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they just never sent it, so the people complained and they never released the money to the band. And so it's funny because this guy got a lot of retweets saying, you know, oh, Bandcamp is, you know, not good for me or whatever. And then, you know, I find out it's because you didn't send the people the CDs they'd ordered or the T-shirts they'd ordered or whatever. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, from my understanding, I have a few friends who have looked into and there's lots of different websites, I guess. You can punch in how many plays on Spotify it would take, and then you type in how much money you want, and it tells you how many plays you would need to get on your revenue platform to get that much money for each one. And so it's interesting to see. I think some friends of ours had an album and it had quite a lot of play on Spotify, and I think when sort of the cycle had died down, they counted up and I think they got about $9.
$9.
Oh.
So not even enough for a burrito.
Well, it depends on where, but
That's true.
True.
Not on the peninsula.
yeah. And maybe not a very good burrito.
Yeah.
Well, this the subject, like I think we were talking about, like there was a time when bands toured to promote their album because the album was where they made all their sales. And then people stopped buying albums. So bands would put out an album and then they'd have to tour to make money. And the album was just something that they, you know, that was the music that they would play while they're on tour, you know, so they had a reason to go on tour. But now, you know, that people aren't really going out to see bands because of COVID. How are people making money? And so we started looking into, you know, the actual different ways that bands are making money. And a lot of it is, you know, streaming, things like YouTube or live streaming, like we've seen done during the pandemic. I've seen a lot of like the Reverb, the website, sponsored concerts from home, and that introduced me to some artists that I wouldn't have known about. And it's funny because they're like in their living room. These are clearly people who are not used to, I mean, they're more used to being in front of an audience. You can tell, like when they get to the end of a song and, you know, they yell out, "Thank you," and then they're like, "Oh, I'm just alone in my living room." It sounds so hollow.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, of course, getting like a deal to have your song used in a, you know, movie or a commercial or a TV show or otherwise, you know, some other kind of video content. It's another one. But yeah, as Mitch said, I think we need to, you know, do further research before we have the definitive guide to how to make music or how to make money as a musician in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to research it a little more.
Yeah. I have a few more anecdotes too, but I'll save them for when we do a deep dive.
Yeah. Let's talk about this again, you know. Hey, so let's let's wrap up. What are you guys working on this week? What's your
I'm going to continue working on my P bass. I hope to have you know, a bass guitar by the next time we meet. I think it's going to go very quick because the, you know, like I don't have to wait for the finish to dry. I'm going to use the Odie's oil. So I think once I, you know, get my holes drilled and everything routed out, it'll be quick.
That's interesting. I was looking into that finishing stuff. I've had a body I've been meaning to finish for ages, and I picked up a bunch of leather dyes to do it.
Oh,
And then I was going to do like a gun stock finish over it. But I'd looked up those finishes because then you're not supposed to do them inside, but it won't destroy you if you do them inside. Is that if you have a window open or something, right?
if you the Odie's oil, you can totally do it in the house. It doesn't smell like anything. It's
Okay.
you can get it on your hands. It's food safe too.
Yeah, you can eat off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
another one called wood tone, and wood tone is an alcohol-based one. So that one, I did it indoors. Kirk said it gave him a headache, right?
Well, it smelled
Yeah,
kind
that
of
one
gross.
has a strong smell.
Yeah. I still did it inside. I did 2 guitars with that stuff.
Yeah, it works good. It looks good too, but
Mhm.
like, you know, they have colors too, so you can get colors. So the Odie's oil just comes in like they have a couple. Actually, Kirk got some dye for his.
Yeah, mine came with a color kit, and it looks like it's some kind of powder, and I have to look up how to use it. But there are a lot of colors on the website in the Odie's oil store.
Huh. I
Um,
wonder if that's new because I think when I bought some Odie's oil, so I just have the original one. Like I think I have the Odie's and the Odie's dark. It's just kind of, and they're kind of just an amber color, you know,
mhm.
right? And I've used it on a couple things, and it works pretty good, you know, super easy. Like, you know, it's not hard at all. You can get it on your hands, you know. It doesn't, you know.
Yeah, I've got a Les Paul Junior double cutaway kit that I've been meaning to glue together and finish, and so it's definitely not on the docket for this week. But
Yeah.
I might check out these other oils because I've had mixed results with gun stock oil, and it's not my favorite thing to use. So I'll look into that.
Well, it depends on what kind of finish, you know, what kind of appearance you want to have. But the wood tone was very easy to do. If you know, it feels good. It's you know, you feel the wood. It's cool, but like I think, you know, Mitch and I both had this experience where we're trying to like put a sunburst finish on a guitar, and it's very, very subtle. It's very difficult to kind of see the gradation.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the cost too was not good. So you pay like it's like $30 and you get like a little 2 ounce. It's just like barely enough to do one guitar,
Mhm.
you know, where the Odie's oil was more expensive. You paid like $40 or $50, but then you got enough to do like 5 or 10 or 20 guitars. I mean, seriously, like the oil would last a long time. The wood tone though also comes with like a kind of a clear coat. So it kind of has a bit more of a harder finish. Like the Odie's oil is just basically the oil, you know. Um, I haven't used it that much, but I feel like the oil probably wears off faster because the wood tone kind of has a bit of a glossy coat on it. But with the wood tone or with the Odie's oil, you could reapply oil on anything that wore off. Like you wouldn't have to sand it down or do anything. You could just put another layer of oil on there and you'd be fine.
I'm actually really curious about that because you know, my jazz bass also has an oil finish on it that I didn't put on it. Actually, I bought the body on Reverb, and somebody else had started this project. But I don't know that I'll ever have to apply new finish on it. It seems like it's fine. So I wouldn't be surprised if I put this Odie's oil on there and it basically lasts the life of the bass.
Yeah, you know, I guess it depends on how hard you play it, you know.
Yeah. Or if I eat off of it regularly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So what are you working on, Steve?
Well, I am going to be working on getting these 5 or 6 pedals stuffed. I just have to solder pots on and offboard wiring, and then and assuming, fingers crossed, there's no troubleshooting to do, I should have 3 new drive pedals, a tremolo, and a reverb. So that's going to be fun. And then once I've got that squared away, then it'll be time to see which one of them, if any of them, get to stay on the main board. I'm going to redo the main board anyway, so I can take advantage of the parallel signal processing, and then we'll see where we're at then. But I'm hoping that, because I've got a couple of drives I'm not super happy with. And I've got your drive, which I'm putting on, but then one of these is probably going to make it onto, but I don't know, because I've got like preamp drive, which is like the low gain stuff, and then heavier stuff, which I'm hoping to parallel blend. So we'll see how much room I have. I have a pretty sizable board, but I don't know if I have enough power to run everything that I want to run. So that's another conundrum to get to as well.
Nice.
I would like to see your board sometime.
I'll send you a photo. I have
Great.
It's a bit of a mess, but it's there.
Yeah. Me and Kirk were talking about, maybe we should do this as another episode too. We were talking about making doing an episode where we just make a pedal board. Right? Because I have one that I put together and then I took it apart again, and then I was like, I got to rebuild this. So then Kirk was building one too. So maybe that's a future episode.
Yeah, I still have to take mine apart again so I can rebuild it, but it's coming along.
I had an idea to do a all mini pedal board. Was an idea too. And then I had another one to do an all Boss pedal board.
Mm-hmm. All orange.
It's all gonna be DS1s.
A guy in my band, he'll only put black pedals on his board. He's got this aesthetic going, and he needed a tuner, and he didn't have a lot of space. And I deliberately kept recommending him tuners that weren't black, and he was getting a little mad at me. But he found one that is like it's so small, and it's really strange. It's like a postage stamp size, like those Dan Armstrong pedals, and it's got this like circular piece that pops up, and that's also the lens which tells you the pitch, and that's what you touch to bypass it.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, me too. When I touched it and I went, "Are you comfortable doing that?" And I'm like, "I hope your guitar stays in tune, because I don't want to be hitting that thing." So that's interesting to me.
Black polytune.
There is, but it was too big for his board. Like he has a really small board. He just has like an HX stomp. He has an expression pedal, but he also has this drone pedal that he just got it. They did a limited release of it, and essentially you have like 9 different samples, and you cycle through the pitch that you want to be in the background for the whole song, and then you can fade them in and out. And so that's taking up like a lot of his board, because it's got like 6 foot switches on it and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So a pad, I think it's more of a pad than a drone, but it's like a pad pedal.
Because I think Polytune makes a mini Polytune, so I feel like you should be able to get a mini Polytune,
I'm serious. He's got every inch of this board accounted for. Literally, this thing is like this, like it's like, and I think it's that you can get them on Amazon and they're affordable, and they don't get bad reviews. But mechanically, I don't know how I feel about stepping on a lens.
Yeah.
And it's not a very reassuring click when you step on it either.
Well, if you make your pedal board, you have to step on it,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of respect the all black pedal board though. I mean, I want to make a pedal board that's all just raw aluminum enclosures.
Oh yeah.
And then have it, just like, Chewbacca from Star Wars. He's got that thing that looks like it's covered with aluminum
Bandolera.
mini pedal,
Yeah.
like I just like that to be my pedal board. You just take it off and put it on the
Yeah.
floor.
That's fun.
I like that. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing this week. I think I'm gonna finish this ugly face demo and then try and do a demo for the fun pedal. And then I have a couple, like I have this mood ring. It's like a reverb with a delay in it. And I got it out. I was gonna use it. And then I realized it's not working. There's something wrong. So I'm gonna try and fix this. And then I got this other thing. This is like a trem shifter. Have you heard of the trem shifter?
I haven't.
It's like a tremolo and a phase shifter in one.
Okay.
Right? This one, like I got it and it's not working. Like I built it and it's not working. So it's kind of a mess inside. I gotta debug that. So I think that's gonna be my goal this week, is debug those two and then make a couple demos, Yeah, cool. Should we call it a day? Any
Let's do
final
it.
words for our devoted fans, right?
Thanks for watching, and come back next week when we do it all again. Episode 21. I don't know what the significance of that is, but yeah.
Divisible by 3
Yes.
and 7.
Yeah. Lucky sevens.
Yeah, right. 3 times. Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.